All right, it's another episode of Pint O Comics here with you. I am John, and with me is Lloyd the Manster. Lloyd, what's going on, man?
Hey, just getting through the summer, getting through this heat wave.
Yeah.
Looking forward to some nice weather.
Yeah. I was at the comic shop today, and I heard two guys talking. Now, I don't think the whole summer's been that bad, but they were talking about how, it hasn't been very hot lately. And I don't know if maybe my house is generally, we have the stand-up air conditioning units, and my house is generally always pretty cool. And the last 3 or 4 nights, my AC units can't heat up or cool down enough of my house. It's like I'm comfortable, but I'm warm. And when I heard these guys talking, I thought, is something wrong? Am I sick? Okay, so I feel glad that you said that. So it's not just me. It has been a little bit warm.
I think it's been a much warmer summer than normal.
Yeah, I feel that too. Absolutely. So this is a kind of a special episode. This is something we would usually do radio wise, but we want to get some ears out there. Now, if you just listened to the intro, we didn't do our usual gutter talk and into our normal theme song. We played something a little bit different. And what that was Satanic Panic 81. And that was the title track to his brand new album coming out very soon, Mara. And we're going to play another track at the end of this episode. So you got the first track there to begin with. You're going to get another one. We're going to talk to Brian, the mastermind, the man behind SP81. You're going to get to hear all about this album. And then you're going to go, you know what? I got 2 songs for free. I just need to get the rest of this thing. Me and Lloyd have both had a chance to listen to it. I'm a huge fan of the first record, the Sacrifice Hunter. I haven't had a lot of time to sit down with the new one, but I have made it a point to go track through track. And Brian, before I introduce you, Brian Burdzy, I got to tell you, and this isn't hyperbole, I think you got another awesome album on your hands. But this is the guy right here, Satanic Panic 81. Brian Burdzy. Brian, what is going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. Just to clear the air, it is very hot these last few days.
Thank you.
Whoever said that, they're living under a rock, and it must be really nice rock.
Cool rock.
Yeah, I'm in my attic, which is where my studio, and my wife calls it my apartment because I have a couch and a TV up here. And all my clothes, and it is probably 90 degrees up here.
Yeah.
Right now. I don't have central air in the house, and it's an uninsulated attic. So
it's the worst place to be.
Yeah, I know. But my old office became my daughter's playroom, so I got stuck with this. It's really nice in the wintertime.
All right. It's the Belfry, by the way. I learned from the promotional material that goes along with Mara. And I am saying Mara, right? It's not Mara.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Mara.
Just wanted to make sure. All right. So Brian has been on the radio show before. We've interviewed him for videos at the very sadly to be missed this year, Connecticut Horror Fest last year. And obviously we know Brian through Larry and the folks over at Cult Classics. Matter of fact, on the Sacrifice Hunter, Larry, right? Larry is the only speaking voice on the entire record.
Correct. He is. He's a fucking... Oh, I'm allowed to swear, right?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
He's a fucking hardcore legend. So, I told the story of when I met him, but I was I got to get Larry on the record somehow. And it didn't take that much of an arm twist to do it. It was just he's can I record it on my phone? I was like, yeah, you can do that.
It sounds good.
Now that you say that, I think that's even more impressive because it doesn't sound like what you would think a phone recording would be like. But yeah, Larry is a great guy, obviously been on our show a bunch. And if you're not familiar, before we start talking more, and Lloyd's got some questions for Brian that we're going to throw out there too. If you listen to the Scary Larry's Pint O Horrors episodes, the series, Brian has been good enough to let us use Composite, which is a track that's actually on the album Mara. He gave it to me quite a while ago. That's the opening track for the Scary Larry's Pint O Horrors. And then one of the tracks from Sacrifice Hunter ends the episodes as well. So Brian has been really cool to let us use some of his stuff in promotional ways, and I appreciate that. So before we get into all of that, Lloyd, do you have 5 questions you want to ask Brian?
Very specific number. Do you have 5 questions exactly that you want to ask?
That's it.
5 questions. Are these going to be of the this or that category?
Oh, well, they're all this or that category.
Okay. And then after that, I do have a question for the two of you. So I've got something for the two of you because I know something that you two have in common that you've talked about before. So I've got a question. So go ahead, Lloyd, you start off.
All right, Brian, we're going to give you 5 simple questions. Nothing hard. Yeah, it's not a test.
Personality.
So feel free to elaborate or just give any kind of short answer you want, however you feel.
Okay.
So first one, Boo Berry or Count Chocula?
Boo Berry, hands down, no question about it. It's always Boo Berry. I'm Boo Berry till I die.
Wow.
Nice.
He almost had been waiting for someone to ask that question.
Yes,
That's what it feels
I
like.
love Boo Berry, and I buy it every fall because they put it out in the fall now. Like for Halloween, they do like a special edition box, and I've bought it every time. In fact, I had a box of Boo Berry at work that I didn't open, and then we got a new person. They decided to clean, and they just tossed it.
Ooh.
Sounds like you have an ex-new person.
Yeah, really.
If anybody from work is listening to this, fuck you, I hate you. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
All right. Ministry or Skinny Puppy?
Ministry.
All right.
Ministry, especially the first album with Sympathy. I know that's the one that he hates the most, but it is by hands down like one of my favorite albums ever.
Excellent.
I love it so much. And I love all his other stuff like Rape and Honey and all that. And like all of his albums are really, really great. But that's got more of a new wave feel. I like industrial, but that's got more of a new wave feel. And I tend to lean more into that, like Cure, Depeche Mode sort of stuff than I do industrial, but I still love industrial.
Agreed.
And Skinny Puppy's great too. I have nothing against Skinny Puppy. I love that.
I had when I was maybe 20, I was living at home. I was probably a teenager actually. And I had that Land of Rape and Honey. And I grew up in a pretty conservative household, going to church 3 times a week. And my mom came in and she saw that tape and she's like, "What are you listening to? Rape and Honey? What is that?"
Was she as offended?
Hey, Mom, come on.
Was she as offended as the honey part as the rape part? Like I would think the rape part would be the
just rape.
Yeah, well, it's a hard word.
Yeah, it is.
They did so my cousin sent me a bunch of, he was going through his stuff in like his parents' like attic or whatever. He lives down in Maryland, and he's I think he's like 4 or 5 years older than I am, and he was going through his stuff, and he's like, "Hey, do you want any of these cassettes?" And it was like, I don't know, he probably sent me like 17 or 18 cassettes, and they were good ones too. It was like Evil Empire, I think 2 Danzig, or no, it was 1 Danzig cassette, the live one, the Demon Sweat.
Yeah.
Live, what was the other one? I'm trying, but it was like there's a bunch of Ministry ones, and I was like, "Dude, I didn't realize that you were this into Ministry." He's like, "Oh yeah, I bought that cassette, and it came with a VHS, it was a live one." So, and he's like, and it came with a VHS tape of like a live show, and my dad walked in and saw, and it's my uncle, and I know how super conservative he is. We're all raised Catholics, and he saw them like naked girls dancing in cages and all kinds of weird stuff, and he took it out of the VCR and snapped it over his leg, and then just walked out of his room. And I was like, "Oh man, that's worth a lot of money."
Not anymore.
All right. Next one, Blade Runner or Escape from New York?
Oh, tough one. I think because I get compared to John Carpenter, people are going to think I'm going to say Escape from New York. I love the movie, but I go with Blade Runner mainly because I like noodles, and that's apparently all they eat.
Yeah, that's all you eat is noodles with like 2 shrimp in it. Yeah.
Barlow or Nosferatu?
Barlow. Yeah, I'll go with Barlow because
you gotta go with the blue guy.
Well, I got to go with the blue guy, and the part where he comes, like you first see him, and what's the guy who plays his assistant? He's like,
Marsden?
"Stand against the master." Like, it's such a good part in the whole movie. Like, face the master to the priest. Like, I fucking love. I forget the guy's real name in real life.
James.
But they just redid like Dracula on Netflix, and it's like a 3-part series, and the entire
I saw
time,
that.
I thought he was doing an impersonation of that guy, not of
Did you ever
Barlow,
see that, John?
the other guy.
No, the Netflix Dracula thing. I didn't bother because I'd heard so many bad things about it that I kind of got.
I loved it. I thought it was great. And I don't like. I think a lot of the Dracula stuff is like it got really really shitty after like all the Twilight and all that crap. I liked 28 Days Later. I thought that one was, or not 28 Days Later. Excuse me, 30 Days of Night. Sorry about that.
Right.
That was James Mason.
James Mason. That's
I think I said Marsden. Yeah, it's Mason.
James Marsden plays another vampire. He's Spike in or that's James Marsters. Okay, whatever. What's your last question, Lloyd?
Vincent Price or Christopher Lee?
Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee's legend. I love him.
Never had to even think about it.
Yeah. Now these are long held opinions.
All right. Now I got a quick question.
I had a bunch of good stuff for him.
Before you did.
Sorry, I mean, Christopher Lee. That's not even like one I can feel like I can't even expand on it because I like all of the. I love Wicker Man, and I like the Hammer films a lot. I thought he was so good at being Dracula. He was basically good at everything. So
he's done a lot.
And then there was the weird Tim Burton obsession near the end of his life, and he made a metal album. So he made like a symphonic metal album, which is difficult to digest, but I have digested it. And he was metal right up until the end, which I think is rad. Vincent Price, of course, he did the thing with Michael Jackson, but it's not the same.
Vincent Price, fish in a dishwasher.
Yeah, I saw that on the Carson show. Vincent Price always reminded me of kind of like someone's sort of spooky effete grandfather. Ooh, like he's cool. He's a legend, but I think Lee has more. There's more gravitas there.
And he was in Tim Burton movie too. He was in Edward Scissorhands.
Yes. Yeah, his last movie, I think, ever.
It was his last movie.
Yep. All right. So here's my question for the two of you. I want this to be like kind of a quick answer because I want to get into Brian's stuff. And I'm going to make the rule of I don't want any hard thinking because I think both of you are going to sit here and maybe go, ooh. At CT Horror Fest, you both had kind of talked about your love for this band, and Brian just mentioned them, and I think the other day on Facebook put up a post about how much he loved them. I'm going to start with Manster. Manster, your absolute favorite Depeche Mode album. And I know nothing about Depeche Mode, so this is interesting for me kind of hear you guys come up with your answers to this.
I think my stock answer is just going to be Violator, but I think Ultra.
All right. So we're going with Ultra. Now, same question, flip side. If someone said to you that you have the ability to erase an album from their catalog, you have to get rid of one album, essentially your least favorite, what would you say that is?
Any one of the last few. I don't even know the names of them.
Okay. All right. Brian, favorite and terminating. What are you doing?
Well, I'm sorry. I can't terminate one. I like all the records. I agree. Violator is the one. Ultra is fucking awesome. And I'm a big fan of Music for the Masses, too. I love that one.
Yeah, that's great.
That one's great.
Quick and easy. All right, that's good. I'll give you're the guest. If Lloyd had said he couldn't pick one, I might have told him to get off. You're the guest, so that's okay. So, Brian, as we obviously kind of learned here, you are a horror fan, a movie fan, a hardcore kid, a punk guy, and you've kind of taken all of that stuff together, and you're a musician. You've taken all of that stuff together, and you've focused a lot of your energy on Satanic Panic 81, which you kind of describe as a horror wave band. Now, the first album, The Sacrifice Hunter, you had a partner at the time, Bruce. It was essentially recorded to be a soundtrack to a film that doesn't exist. And now here we are a couple years later, and you've got Mara. So tell us all about Mara. Tell us who you're working with, if it's just you or who you got on it, and what the vibe and what the idea behind this one is.
So, yeah, sure. Right after we finished Sacrifice Hunter, we were tossing around ideas. I was still writing, and then I was playing with synthesizers because a lot of the stuff that we did, actually all of the stuff that we did for Sacrifice Hunter was done on a computer. It was just programming, and we just messed around with it. And then I spent a lot of money buying synths, ones that I could afford. I mean, there's ones that go for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a piece, and that's not for me. I could spend a couple $100. I drove out, I think for my analog one, I drove out to Springfield to get one from some guy, and I made him meet me at a police station. So that way he wouldn't steal my money. Yeah. So I was working on music for a while. Bruce was, and then, we talked about this before, but we just couldn't get together on where to go from there, on what the concept was going to be, on what we were going to morph into. Not to go into like crazy detail about it, but we just decided that, hey, this isn't working out for either one of us. It's, our friendship is more important. And so we split, and I still had some songs. There was one track that he and I kind of like worked on together. It's not on the album. I elected not to put it on there because it just didn't feel right. I don't think it felt right for him, and it didn't. And if it doesn't feel right for him, it doesn't feel right for me. So it's probably going to end up on some European compilation. I gave it to a European guy, so whatever he does with it, he's going to do with it. He's probably making copies of it in his
Dieter from
basement, whatever. He's doing something with it.
Just some rando European guy, like some guy named Sven. You were like at a club and you were like, here.
He seemed legit. I met him on Twitter. And so he's got it now. And there were three. So it took a long time to write it because I just decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to put it out on vinyl. And that's a big commitment. And I'm probably going to have to do it myself. So it's a very expensive commitment. So I was like, all right, well, it doesn't make sense to just like rush anything. In between that time, I wrote the score for Kurt Spieler's film, The Dead Girl in Apartment 3, which will be out on CD soon, hopefully. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just take my time. And it took over a year to just get everything written. And so I sat down like the week before Halloween, this one that just passed, with 12 songs because I only demoed them initially. So I tracked them. I tracked 11 of them. I cut one right away. And then I went through trying to mix it myself. And in between that time, I got two of my friends to play on different songs. My friend Tommy, he and I were in a band together many, many years ago, and then he's now in two bands. I think they're both still active. I know Police Navidad is active, and
that is a great name, by the way.
As soon as he told me that, I started laughing. And then he's in another band called The Low Road, and he and I were actually played together with Bruce in a power violence band called You and All Your Friends Are Dead, which is like now defunct. We only played one show. The show was 7 minutes long. So, I mean, we only had like 8 minutes of music anyway, so it's fine. We had a lot of fun doing it. But anyway,
So wait a minute, just real quick. I don't want to interrupt. I want you to go. You had 8 minutes of music, but the show was 7 minutes long. So you guys couldn't even finish that last minute. Did you like implode on stage, or you were like?
No, our goal was to only play for 7 minutes. Like when we started that band, we only wanted to play a 7 minute set.
Okay. All right.
It's power violence. All the songs are short. I think the fastest song that we had, it was like 3 seconds long. And then I think the longest one we had was like a minute and change. Like it was all really, really short stuff. So there's a couple 20-second songs in there that fill it up. We recorded the whole album in like half a day.
Wow.
You didn't get out.
Yeah, it is what it is. We were thinking about putting the whole thing on like one-sided 8-inch vinyl, but we just didn't, it's just a tough thing to commit to because the three of those guys are in Jersey, I'm in Connecticut, so it's kind of tough.
I just want to bring one other thing up too, is I like talking to Brian because I learn of new music genres that I have, like horror wave and power violence. Like it's just, like if I go on my Alexa or my Amazon TV, I could find yacht rock. Like that's like, Hall & Oates and all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I doubt there's a power violence section on there.
There is a power violence section.
Alexa.
Is there really?
Power violence.
Yeah. Power violence is nothing new. So yeah, and so I called Tommy because I played with Tommy a bunch of times. I just know what a pro he is, and I was like, hey, I'd really like you to be a part of this thing going forward because I think I'm gonna probably try to do some live shows and all that stuff. And so I'd really like you to be a part of that. And he kind of jumped all over it, and he came out for a day, and we recorded some bass tracks and a couple guitar parts. And then I sent a song to my friend Paul, and Paul is in he's in this band, this amazing band called Hundreds of AU. He's in another band called Died Out, and they're great too. He's been in a ton of projects, and he and I grew up in the same scene. So he's always been super supportive of the stuff that I do. So I sent him something, and I was like, hey, you want to give this a shot? You want to try to lay some guitar over this? And he did, and it sounds great. And I was, stoked to work with him. So much so that we ended up collaborating again on a not a Satanic Panic song, but just a song with a bunch of other musicians. And now he and I are doing another project together, which hopefully by the end of this year we'll release a demo tape or something.
So Mara, being the second of the Satanic Panic albums, is the Kurt Spieler soundtrack, is that a Satanic Panic thing, or is that under your name or something different?
No, it's Satanic Panic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing with that is, and I wanted to get that one out too. It's being mixed and mastered right now by my friend Jake Egan, and Jake was the one that mixed The Sacrifice Hunter. So I asked him to do it, and the plan for that one was to put it on vinyl as well, but they would have been really expensive because it goes over a certain time limit, and it would have had to be a double disc, which would have made it very, very pricey. Not something that I could afford if I wanted to put this album out as well. And this was a lot of work, and a lot of time went into this album. And so I figured we'll just put this one, the soundtrack will go out on CD. I might even put it out on tape when I feel like the time is right. And we'll just, if I do well on this, on Mara, then, maybe it'll see a vinyl release, but for right now, no, I couldn't afford to do it. And Curtis was very much willing to help, but, the amount of money that it would cost to get it done would have been very, very expensive. And it was more important for him to take that money, and him and his producers and the people in his crew that make all those decisions. That money is better spent doing the promotional things that they need to do to make the film a success. So it doesn't do me any good. I mean, the film is super awesome. I can't wait for people to see it because there are really scary parts that I had to play over and over again to play music with it.
Yeah.
It's a bit nerve wracking. It's going to be great. And when people see it, they're going to love it. And you'll get more exposure. And I'll hopefully piggyback on and get more exposure on that. And I think that's a little bit more important. So, he paid me well for it. And I'm very, very grateful that, they gave me the opportunity to do that. And they seem to really like what I presented to them. So, it'll get out there at some point. So people are going to hear it, hopefully. So.
All right. I can't
wait to see that release.
Yeah, I know. Kurt's two prior movies, he's been on the show before, Sheepskin and The Devil's Well, are fantastic. And he's a talented dude for sure. I think the biggest compliment I can give you from what I've listened to of Mara is just like Sacrifice Hunter to me in terms of feel. When I listen to these tracks, I can picture like a movie scene in my head. It might not be an established movie scene, but I feel like I'm listening to something that is laid on top of something else. And I know that's what your idea behind Horror Wave is that it's very much drawn from the soundtracks of the late 70s and 80s, the stuff that eventually Stranger Things kind of, they weren't responsible totally, but kind of brought forth again into the mass public eye, but like I absolutely feel like, I don't know, Lloyd, do you feel like that when you listen to the Satanic Panic?
I totally do. It's to me it felt new yet familiar. It was I've listened to a little bit of the, what do you call it, dark synth, something like that. I think your stuff is way more melodic. It's more of a mixture of it's like a sci-fi horror melody. And some of that other stuff for me is just too much like house music, metal, video game sounds. I like yours much better.
Thank you.
But I was listening to it. Yeah, you're welcome. There's times when I was thinking of The Shining. I'm like, oh my God, this really brings me to The Shining. And I was thinking of really old Cure songs and just other stuff that in the 80s that I really loved. Familiar and new at the same time.
There was one track, and I failed to bring my note with me. I was listening to it on the way into work this morning a little bit more. There was one track, it was probably in the 6 or 7 numerical range, that had like a really nice kind of like jangly guitar bit in it. And
yeah, you're probably referring to Walking Free.
Yes, yeah, that was what I wrote it when I got to work, and I left that there.
That one is the one that Paul played on, and I didn't tell him what to play. He played the part, and then he took a video of himself playing along with it, and like kind of equalized the volume so that way I could hear everything. And I was like, yeah, that's great, because it was great. There's nothing I need to change. He wasn't trying to do too much. He was just trying to, he's like, I feel like the keys kind of have a solo in there, and I'm playing like rhythm to it, and I don't want to take away from that at all. And I was like, what you're doing, I could probably never do. So thank you. Because
how many total instruments are in the album?
There's a lot of, I used 4 different synthesizers. There's Tommy used 2 different basses. The drums are all MIDI because it's just very easy to program, and but I use different virtual drum kits for each song. And then there's 2 different guitars, and so there's quite a bit. There's much more instrumentation and experimenting with effects than I did the last time. I mean, the last time we just kind of wrote the songs and hoped that they would sound good when they were mixed. And now that and then with this one, like I quit on this album like 10 times. And because I couldn't get the mix right, and I couldn't get the effects right. And then finally I just kind of like desperately reached out to my friend Jeff, who he mastered the last album, and I was like, hey man, can you mix this for me please, like, and master it, because you know what I'm trying to do, and I just don't know that I'm hitting the marks the way that I should be. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he took a couple weeks because he works for a living, and he's got 2 kids of his own. So he's a busy guy, busy dad. I think at one point he was working 2 jobs because he was doing like a wedding DJ thing on weekends. So it was kind of tough for him to find the time, but he did. And then he was sending me stuff back, and it was very little that I had to, the notes that I had to make for him were very, very subtle changes. A volume touch here, volume up here, volume down here, fade in, fade out. Nothing crazy that he couldn't fix in like a couple minutes and send right back, which was a relief, because as your friend who's he's cut me a break. Yeah, I paid him to do it, but he was still cutting me a break. You don't want it.
So it sounds like critical. He reeled you back in
a little bit, yeah. But he definitely helped me out. And then he sent me a very nice like email when it was all done. He's like, you really outdid yourself. It's so much better than the last one. All the hard work that you put into it, I think people are really going to like it. And like I said, I just hope people hear it, because I worked really hard. I don't like saying, oh, I'm great, but I worked hard. And so I hope that shows more than anything else. Cause I didn't want people to hear it and be like, oh, Sacrifice 102. Or like, they didn't, there's no improvement from the first album to the second album. And because that would be a nightmare. That would. But I listened to the 2 back to back, and I'm like, this is much, much different, much more up my alley. So, yeah,
they're definitely different for sure.
I really want to stress to any of the listeners out there that obviously if you listened to the beginning and heard the song Mara, I think it's so important that you check this out, simply for the fact that if you are a fan of soundtrack albums from that time era, and that's not all that it's for, but I think if you are a fan of that window of time, you're totally missing out by not jumping on Satanic Panic. And if you're a fan, like the way I've always kind of described it when people ask me is, I find your music, when I listen to it a lot, will be like reading or something, it's extremely atmospheric to me. I feel like, I don't know. I could talk about movies and comics all day long. I always have the hardest time talking about music. And I think because as opposed to those other things, music is deeply personal to everybody. Like a movie is a movie, and that's personal, but it's easier to expound upon. So me trying to tell people why they should check your stuff out may not come across that great, but it definitely, it's different. It's sonically awesome. I mean, it sounds really cool.
I have trouble explaining music to people too. When I had Tommy here fucking trying to play bass parts, I was like, yeah, dude, do the thing. And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you? I was like, all right, hold on. I'll get the track for you. And just because I had bass parts written and I just showed him, I can't read music. I have no idea how to do it. So I just showed him where on the keyboard I was playing, and he can read music. So he was like, oh yeah, you're playing whatever. And I was like, yes, of course I am. And he did what he needed to do. So, thankfully I got friends like him and Paul and Jake and Jeff and all of the people who've kind of rallied around me to help me out. They know music.
Right.
I have to learn it at some point. It's just tough.
Well, you got to surround yourself with people who know more than you.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
I'm impressed learning you don't know how to read music, because especially the type of music that you perform, it seems to me like there's a lot going on. I don't play music at all, but like to listen to your compositions, and that's what they are to me, it's musical compositions. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of stuff going on. And to think that like you're doing that even more kind of by feel, you just like went up 2 points in my head, because it just seems like that's gotta be harder.
The only thing I know how to do is stay in key. And I didn't know how to do that, and now I do. And I'm just able to stay in key. If I can do that, then I can basically make anything work. Like, technology is there for people like me who,
right.
We're just faking it until we make it. I mean, I'm probably saying too much right now, but it is what it is. Like there is still I didn't just hit run on a computer and randomize notes. Like I sat there and tooled around to the point where I was like falling asleep trying to come up with a cool melody, and then added to that. And then like I threw a ton of things away before I came away with it. So it was a lot of work and a lot of time, and
very textured.
I'm very, very, very proud of it.
Yeah. Say that again, Lloyd, because I think that's a word I was losing.
Yeah. It's very textured, I said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Sacrifice Hunter, again, was a soundtrack to a movie that didn't exist, which was essentially about like a serial killer, right? It was The Sacrifice Hunter. Now, what is Mara about?
Mara is about a girl who is kind of like a shy, sort of average girl, sort of maybe a plain Jane. And her fiance is killed by the police in the same fictional town that the Sacrifice Hunter takes place in, which is Millbrook. She basically dons like goth gear, sort of dressing up like Susie and the Banshees meets like La Femme Nikita, and goes out and exacts revenge on them. And then basically the end is about her kind of getting away with it, and them still like the quote unquote good cops trying to piece together who exactly it could be. And, and that's really about it. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but given the times that we're in right now, police are deservedly under fire, as they should be. And there's a lot of calls to defund the police or reappropriate the police. And, I tend to be in that camp. And so unfortunately, it lined up because I obviously, real people are dying in the street, and you don't want that to happen. However, it resonates, and it resonates with me because I've had bad encounters with police for over half my life. They don't fit like especially from back. See, back home, all the cops in my like hometown area, they were like, half of them were people I went to high school with, and they were fucking assholes then. And right. And now they're cops. and they were fucking idiots. So I'm trying to think of the words that I could put to this, but like there has to be like I don't want to just sit back and make these fantasy albums, you know, like these albums that take place in this fictional reality. Like there is some truth to what's going on. Most people make, right. Okay. So Eli Roth made Hostel, a torture movie around the same time that we found out all those, you know, that prisoners of war were being tortured for answers.
Right.
And that, and you know, it lined up with that. And, you know, there was all these, during the 80s, during the, you know, the time of ritual, like alleged ritual abuse and Satanic Panic and stuff, like a bunch of demon movies came out. When serial killers were running rampant across the country, there were stalker type movies. There was The Burning, and there was Halloween and Friday the 13th and all, you know, so there is a reflection of what's going on. I've always had issues with cops because I don't fit the mold of, like, in my town where I grew up in, like what you were supposed to be as like a teenager. Okay. I was a, you know, punk kid, and I played sports, but like I played the sports that weren't like the popular ones. I didn't play football. I didn't play basketball, even though I wish I did. I wish I was good at basketball. It's one thing because I love basketball so much, but I suck so fucking bad at it. That being said, like I didn't play any of those sports. I kind of hung around with the punk kids and the goth kids and all that, and that was like my scene. And like I remember going into, you know, putting on shows, and then like cops just, you know, they find out that there's one too many people past the fire marshal code. They come in with, you know, just throwing kids around, and because they could, and there was nothing that we could do about it. That's a predominantly white neighborhood. Can you imagine what it's like to be African American in this country right now, with the way that they are stacked, and the power struggle that they have to deal with? Like, and here I am lamenting about police, and like I'm still alive, like I'm still breathing. Nobody pulled a gun on me, because that's just the way it is, you know, and it's terrible. Things need to change. You know, I wouldn't want the album to be like encouraging anybody to go commit violence against anyone. That's not what it's about. But what it is it's resonating right now.
Well, art imitates life, and
art imitates. Exactly. Yeah.
And life informs art, right? I mean, so your experience, it's circular. So your experiences kind of gave you the impetus to write this story that's like kind of a revenge story. And it just so happens to be coming out at a time where the world's blowing up in that same aspect. I was actually going to ask you earlier, and it just brought me back to it. Has like coronavirus and like this life change, like quarantine and, you know, having to be afraid of touching people and who's got it, who doesn't. Has that inspired you at all musically?
It has. The world is so antisocial right now that it's actually like more people are becoming like me. Because like, I don't want to be around anyone. Like, I mean, I like being around my friends, but I don't like being around like normal people. What's that line from Repo Man where it's like, look at this, ordinary fucking people. I fucking hate them. Like, that's how that line every time and I'm like super ordinary. I have a house, I have a wife, I have a kid, I have 2 dogs and a cat. Like I go bird watching now. Like, so it's gotten me outdoors more, which is different. Because I'm usually just kind of like huddled inside doing something, writing or reading books or watching movies and stuff like that. So it has gotten me out a little bit more because I'm just, you know, whatever. But I see like
funny how when you're forced to be inside, you go outside more. I'm finding
because it's my choice. Like it's taking away my choice. I think that I watch them a lot. The videos, I'm sure you guys have seen them, where it's like Karen compilations.
Yeah, Jesus Christ,
complaining about the wearing masks. And there was one where it's just like this Karen just like starting to cry and tear up in her car because she can't she's like, I can't like touch anyone and I can't. And I'm just thinking to myself like, whoa. If you fucking touch me, I would kill you. And if you touch my kid, I would kill you. Don't touch anyone.
Can that be the next Satanic Panic album? Is Karen?
Yeah.
There are Army of Karens.
Army of Karens.
Or band of Karens. Like, you know that band of horses? We'll just change it to Karens.
Band of Karens.
Band of Karens. Lloyd, do you have any questions that I have not asked so far of Brian about?
Oh yeah,
the
I got
album?
a ton of questions.
All right.
I was actually going to ask you your collaborative process, or if you're more like comfortable collaborating or doing yourself. And I get the feeling it's you by yourself.
It really depends. So if it was in terms of like, if I have to do another film, we say that again. I want to do another film. I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to do that myself because that's a solo thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Working with other people for that it's too tough. As far as writing new stuff, like I'm already working on some ideas for the next release and or the next few releases. Like I'm just trying to keep myself super busy. Recently kind of like decided that I wasn't going to drink anymore because it's been like coronavirus is just, there's just nothing else to do but just drink booze. And I just was like,
I think we've all been hitting it a little more.
Yeah. So I'm like permanently done. And so I just, one of the things I wanted to do was just work on myself a little bit and also just put my nose to the grindstone and work as much as I can. And in that, like, I'm just going to write a little bit more and like, send stuff to Tommy and got, some ideas to get like a live band together to perform for people. And, which would include a drummer and probably a guitar player. So, yeah. So
that
in
was
that
actually
regard,
leads into my next question.
Go ahead.
Were you, do you do any performances, in
Not
support
yet.
of the album?
Not
do
yet.
any for Sacrifice Hunter?
No, it's good, but it's it's going to be very, very hard to do anything in the near future because of Corona. I feel bad for a lot of people who are musicians right now, independent musicians who are still trying to, figure out how they're going to, pay for their next album and do all that stuff. When that breaks and, I plan on doing something live for sure. That's definitely going to happen. Like that's in the wheelhouse, but we're not going to do anything like, I like to keep things simple. Like I already told the dudes that are going to do this. I was like, hey, like basically we're just going to kind of dress in all black. And they're like, no makeup, right? I'm like, no makeup. I'm probably going to wear sunglasses and we'll probably have a couple of fucking fake candles somewhere. And that's really it. I want to, I like the less is more approach to everything. So we'll just do it that way.
What were you playing when you were in the bands prior to Satanic Panic?
I was a vocalist, so I never had to learn.
Okay.
Never had to learn an instrument.
How young were you when you started?
The first band I did was a really bad high school band, and I think I was 15 going on 16. I think our first show was my sophomore year. And we played in front of my entire school because we used to have this thing. I don't know if you guys had it in high school. It was like a lock-in, and they called it Super Night.
Oh, we had that the night I graduated where they don't let you out to drink. You all have like a party inside.
They do it in the middle of the year.
Oh, see, for me, it was graduation night.
They did that at graduation for us too. But they took us to like this, like a New York sports club. And we just kind of like there was just nothing to do. Like people were just making out under the bleachers and stuff. It really all was. I just remember the one night we did it, a bunch of us there was a CD player, we brought it in and we just listened to a bunch of CDs all night long in like one of the classrooms, and we didn't smash it up, which is like my only regret. But the first time we did it, like a bunch of us, it was just me and like, three of my friends, and we played a show in front, and it was all covers. It was all punk covers. And one dude sang a System of a Down song.
Did you guys call yourself the Band of Karens by any chance, or no?
No, it was unfortunate. This is an unfortunate name for this band. It was Better Without Steve because we kicked a guy named Steve out, and then we couldn't think of a name.
That's a great name. I love that band name.
And I ruined the guy. Well, now him and I are cool now, but like a couple of years ago, this is over a decade ago, I like kind of was like at his place, and like we were like drinking and like hanging out, and he poured into me. He's like, you ruined my fucking high school experience. And I was like, I wasn't the only one that named that, just so you know. Like, there was other people that made that decision too. It wasn't even my idea.
Was the name accurate though? Was the band better without Steve?
Not really. I mean, probably not. In all honesty, we sucked. We thought we were the fucking coolest. But we just did cover songs, and half the songs we wrote were about like food. Like, there was one song called Indigestion where I just was about. And this is so bad in 2020.
That Pepto-Bismol song.
But it was basically about how, like, the only reason, like, any of us ever liked any girls was because they're good cooks. And that's fucking horrible to say now.
Hey.
It's so bad.
Hey.
But it was like, there was something about chocolate cake in the middle of it, and it's not like a sexual innuendo or anything.
This song is actually about chocolate cake. Well, Brian, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm friends with Brian. I'm friends with Bruce, formerly of Satanic Panic, on Facebook, and his new band is called Better Without Brian. So just
he might be right.
So where can everybody start to look forward to getting their hands on Mara, getting their hands on the new album entitled Mara? That sounds better. And is there anywhere that they can, I think I saw something about Spotify, where they can start peeping it out right now?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is satanicpanic81.com. That's 81, not spelled out 81. It's also satanicpanic81.bandcamp.com. You can hear it there. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Deezer, all the fucking streaming sites. I think there's a YouTube video of it too. The album itself will be out, let's see, on October 2nd. I should know that right off the top of my head. I didn't. It'll be out October 2nd because I'm waiting on the vinyl, basically. That's what I'm waiting on. And that may cause a delay. It may not. We'll see. But the CDs and the cassettes, I already have them in hand. I've had them in hand for months. And the cassettes look beautiful. They look really good. My friend Adam did the layout for it, and I described it over the phone and sent him a picture of like what an old Bruce Springsteen Nebraska tape looked like, and I was like, yeah, do this, but use pink and black color scheme. And he's like, all right, man, like whatever you say. So that's
you're the boss.
Sounds good. You're the boss. Nice.
I didn't even mean that. Look at that. And we learned on the radio show a year and a half ago when Brian was on. Brian is from New Jersey, and I kind of made a joking reference, knowing that Brian is like a punk kid, hardcore kid, and I kind of made a joking reference that he probably hates Springsteen, and he's a big Springsteen fan, which it seems like the most New Jersey thing about New Jersey people is like they cannot not like Bruce Springsteen. And I figured, and you know what? I judged a book by its cover. I figured, oh, Brian's going to like rail against him. You know, he's going to be like, no, fuck Springsteen. And he's like, no, I absolutely love Bruce.
Well, so it's funny too, because like when that second Killers album came out and they basically like ripped off Bruce Springsteen the entire time, I was mad because they were tearing him up. Like it was like, well, the devil's water, it ain't so sweet. I'm like, this is a Bruce Springsteen song. This is not cool. But then, like, you know, I listened to it a bunch of times. I was like, actually, this is kind of rad. So I kind of got over it.
Lloyd, did you have any other questions in there? I just wanted to get all the album info out there. That's why I kind of jumped in there. I realized we were talking a bit, and I didn't ask about the release date. Do you have anything else you want to ask, Brian?
I do want to ask him one other thing. So 6 months from now, your album's out. Everybody loves it. A band asks you to go on tour with them and open up for them. What band would you want that to be?
You can't answer Depeche Mode.
Go on tour the Depeche Mode, please. I would pay them to go on tour with them. There's a musician. He lives in LA now. He's from Boston. He's in a band called American Nightmare, which me and my wife both have tattooed on us. We're both big American Nightmare fans. But he does a project called Cold Cave, and if I would go out on tour with him in a heartbeat, are we talking about bands or are we talking about like synth?
Oh, anything you want.
Ooh, there's a group from Georgia called Boy Harsher. They are awesome. They're definitely like dark wave stuff, and they're fantastic. I'm gonna
have to take some notes.
And then as far as like bands, I would go on tour with Paul's band in a heartbeat because Hundreds of AU is like one of my favorite projects right now, and they're awesome. Back in December, they played a show with a band Folly, which the guy who mixed and mastered this, he's the guitar player for that band. And so I went down to Jersey to go check him out, and then Paul invited me on stage to sing one of their songs, and it was like so much fun. So the thought of going on tour with them for like a week or two and then getting up on stage and singing that song with them would be awesome. I would have so much fun doing that.
Totally.
All right.
Bad.
I got a question. All right. So I got a question. Your daughter's name, from being friends on Facebook, very cute, by the way, is named Sheena. Is that from the Ramones song?
Yes. Her middle name is Ramon. She's Sheena Ramon.
Oh,
That's
wow.
awesome. Sheena was a punk rocker. That is so cool. I didn't put that together. I'm like, there's no way he named her Sheena after the Queen of the Jungle, because that's kind of a, you got our full support. We love Satanic Panic. We're both big fans. I'm looking forward to digging into this album more and more. Everybody out there, please, like I said, go back, listen to the first part of the show, the intro. That was Mara. And then I think I'm going to throw, what was the title? Walking, the jangly guitar one again.
Walking Free.
Walking Free. I think I'm going to throw Walking Free on the back end so you guys can hear that. And what are there, 10 tracks total? 9. So that's 2 out of 9 tracks. You've got 7 tracks all in there. Satanic Panic 81. People could still go and get the Sacrifice Hunter too as well, right?
Oh, yeah, it's still there. There's also the Flexi for Mondo Creepy TV that's still available.
That's right. You know what? Real quick, do you want to talk about that? Because we're friends with Matt, and I forgot that you did that as well. Go ahead. Talk about it. Before we leave, we'll talk about that as well, because I like Matt and I like Mondo Creepy.
Well, actually, because of you guys, I was able to get that done. You kind of dropped a line to me, and then Matt checked out some of the music. He reached out to me, and by this time I was done writing I was still mixing for Mara, but I was like done writing and everything, and I was like, all right, I'll do this. And I hope I can give him something good. And then it just kind of came together real quick. I sent him a demo. He liked it, and then I just fucked with it, and then I made 100 copies on flexi disc, and it was not worth it. I should have done 300, or I should have not done it at all, because it's a tough sell. I mean, you got to sell it for a certain amount, so.
But you're happy with the actual track.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. That's actually when we start playing live, that'll be in the set for sure, because it's a fun song. Every time I let people listen to it, they're like, "This is rad. This is like Knight Rider a little bit." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is like Knight Rider a little bit."
That's cool.
With that song and with the songs from Mara, like I really wanted to step up my game with like drums and drum fills, and I think that's my proudest accomplishment of of those 2 releases, is that the drums, there's a little bit more to them than there was on the Sacrifice Hunter, because I just didn't know what I was doing when I was doing it. And now I have a much better grasp, and I learned to take my time. Taking your time is very important.
All right. Well, follow Mondo Creepy on Twitter. That's our buddy Matt Maisto, and he's always on the Mobile Horror Companion, another great show that we love a lot. That is his kind of, what do you want to call it? Homage to the creature features with the sexy dead female hostess, almost like an Elvira. It's a very cool concept he's got going on. Obviously, check Brian out. Brian, where can everybody find you on the socials as well if they want to follow SP81?
Oh, I'm always on the Twitter. I'm blocked by the Trapped guy now. But,
that idiot! Yeah.
That guy's a douche tool.
He's headstrong, though. He's very headstrong.
Yeah, he sold 600 copies. Good for him. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Please reach out to me and comment on the dumb things that I say. Usually they're pretty funny. It's very lighthearted for me. It's usually like little things of what's going on, like me finding the 3 Die Hard VHS tapes in my house this morning or this afternoon. I'm also on Instagram. I wish I was more active on there. I don't social media well.
The new album is Mara. It will be out in October, but you could start checking things out now. And Brian, thank you so much. Again, like I said, anytime you got anything going on, please reach out to us. And I want to, obviously, me and Lloyd want to support and do everything we can.
Thanks so much. I love talking to you guys, and I really appreciate you giving me the time to get the word out about this. And to anybody out there who gave a listen, if you do end up listening to some of the songs, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Manster, you want to do that thing?
Check our website, pintocomics.com, where you can find lots of great articles and reviews on a plethora of subjects, including O-rings. Subscribe to this very podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, all that stuff, where you can find new episodes weekly. And go ahead and give us a review, please. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for podcasts, special reviews from the six-pack, plus occasional videos. Click on the bell for notifications. On the social medias, on Facebook and Twitter, it's at Pint O Comics. On Instagram, it's at Pint_O_comics. And to hear Sir John talk to a variety of people in the comic book and entertainment industry, please tune your radio dial. Are there still dials on radios?
Yeah. There's still dials. Yep.
Still dials.
Buttons, dials, switches. Vacuum switches. Yeah.
Vacuum tubes. On WESU Middletown, 88.1 FM on Sunday nights from 6:30 to 7:30. You can also stream the show on wesufm.org and on the TuneIn Radio app. And remember, it's not a panic if it's not satanic. Panic. See ya.